The void had existed before creation, before light, before the first stars even dared to flicker. From that emptiness, Knull arose, a deity born not of warmth but of absence, a living will of nothingness. He remembered the first dawn of the universe as a betrayal, piercing of his perfect silence with illumination and sound. The Celestials forged the first lights, and he in turn forged his blade from the abyss, the all-black Necrosword, and swore to drown that light in eternal dark. His essence bled across galaxies, threading through hosts, conquering stars, binding worlds beneath the writhing tendrils of his symbiotes. For eons, he waged war not just against life, but against the very idea of persistence. He was more than a destroyer. He was a rejection of meaning, a god that preached the futility of striving. Far from his domain, on a broken Kryptonian world long extinct, another thing stirred, a creature born not of philosophy but of design. Doomsday was not a god, nor a king, nor a prophet. He was a weapon, honed by the cruel process of death and rebirth. Each time he fell, he rose, immune to what had killed him before. His only creed was survival, his only purpose destruction of anything that opposed that survival. Civilizations perished when he walked, gods fell, planets burned, and the name Doomsday became a myth of inevitable ruin. He lacked words, but his existence was its own doctrine, that life, when pressed, will always evolve to endure. When the threads of fate tugged at the fabric between their realms, it was not coincidence but convergence. Knull, sensing a disturbance in the cosmic abyss, felt an intruder whose existence radiated persistence. Doomsday was a knot in the weave of extinction, a being who refused to stay undone, and that refusal was an affront to Knull's creed of the void. The god of darkness descended into the barren sector where Doomsday rampaged among the ruins of a shattered system, his tendrils blanketing the stars as a curtain of black. For the first time, the unstoppable weapon beheld something that did not recoil or crumble, but gazed into him with a will older than matter. Knull did not strike immediately. Instead, his voice echoed through the dead vacuum, a chorus of abyssal whispers that tore into the faint remnants of consciousness that still swam somewhere in Doomsday's violent mind. "You endure," Knull said, his words crawling like oil across the creature's hide. "But to what end? You do not build. You do not create. You claw forward, always forward, but for nothing. Do you believe your persistence is meaning? That is the lie this universe clings to." Doomsday roared, a soundless shudder across the void, his body twitching with the memory of endless battles. He had no argument, no scripture, but his answer was motion. He moved because he must, survived because that was what he was. Yet something in Knull's voice struck at the primitive heart of his evolution. The god was not just an enemy to be broken. He was a force that sought to unwrite the very instinct that had made Doomsday what he was. Across the empty system, Knull's symbiote darkness unfurled like a living night. He spoke of the futility of evolution, how all things that adapt do so only to meet a slower end. Every change you endure, every scar that makes you stronger, is a delay, not a triumph. You are a flawed echo of the void you resist. I am the truth you were bred to outlast, and even you, weapon of survival, will dissolve into my song. This was no mere clash of strength, it was a collision of creeds. Doomsday represented the idea that life, no matter how brutal, fights to continue. Knull embodied the opposite, that all continuation is meaningless, for the void awaits and does not change. The system's moons cracked as their presence warped the tides of reality. Stars dimmed, not from physical shadow, but from the will of the abyss creeping closer. Doomsday's claws dug into the crust of a lifeless world, his frame bristling with new growths, bone spurs twitching as if anticipating the fight. Knull floated above, cloak of darkness weaving into a blade as long as a mountain, his necrosword whispering promises of absolute stillness. Around them, the remnants of dying stars flickered like failing torches at the dawn of a storm. The debate had been spoken in fragments, one through words, the other through the silent defiance of existing despite every attempt to erase him. Yet Knull knew that even persistence could be turned against itself. Evolution was a chain, and chains could be broken. He would not simply kill Doomsday, he would make him understand the weight of futility, strip him of the very instinct that had kept him alive. Only then would the void truly win. And so the stage was set. One born to erase, the other born to endure. Across the silent void, their philosophies pulsed in waves of pressure that cracked planets. Doomsday crouched, preparing to lunge, driven by instinct. Knull raised his blade, driven by purpose. Their clash would not only decide which body would fall, but whether the universe honored the right to struggle or surrendered to the inevitability of nothingness. The first strike tore the void apart. Doomsday moved like a meteor wrenched from orbit, his fist a battering ram that could level cities, his body already adapting to the alien resonance of Knull's darkness. Knull met the charge with the Necrosword, a sweep of liquid night that split moons in its arc. Bone met Godsteel, and the shockwave peeled the surface from the planet beneath them. Doomsday did not fall, he never did at the first blow. His flesh shredded and immediately regrew, thickened, hardened against the necrotic energy. His claws found Knull's form, tearing Symbiote from bone, and for a moment the Void God staggered. But Knull was not matter, he was the emptiness that matter feared. His body dissolved and reformed behind Doomsday, tendrils piercing the weapon's hide, wrapping around his limbs like barbed chains. "You think this is adaptation?" Knull whispered into the roar. "You only make yourself tastier to the void." Doomsday slammed backward, hurling Knull through a mountain of stone, his roar fracturing the very crust. He learned with each second, his armor shifting, his strikes finding new force. Yet for each adaptation, Knull answered not with strength but with unmaking. The Necrosword carved pieces of Doomsday not to destroy them, but to erase their memory from the creature's evolution. Wounds that would have taught survival instead left blank spaces, and blankness was the void's ally. The battle raged across worlds, their steps scattering planetoids like ash. Knull summoned his symbiote legions, a black tide that swarmed Doomsday, forming spears, beasts, dragons of night. Doomsday tore them apart, his bones now glowing with resistance to their touch, but each tear fed Knull's ocean. The god fed on resistance. The more Doomsday fought, the more the void learned him, rewrote him, hollowed him. They clashed in the corona of a dying star, where Knull's blade plunged through Doomsday's chest, not with the intent to kill, but to infect. Darkness poured in, rewriting his regenerative code, corrupting the very principle of his rebirth. For the first time, Doomsday's evolution stuttered, his healing faltered. A roar turned to a gurgle of black ichor. Knull leaned close, his form a silhouette against the dying light. "Do you feel it? The end of struggle. You were never immortal. You were a pattern, and I have unraveled it." Doomsday struck again, a final desperate swing that could have shattered continents, and for a moment it connected. Knull's frame collapsed into shards of shadow, but each shard carried his will, reforming, coiling, binding the beast in a cocoon of night. The weapon thrashed, tearing space itself, but his instincts now fought against themselves, unable to choose how to evolve when every path was poisoned. In the silence that followed, Knull stood over the collapsing form, Necrosword poised like a scalpel, not a guillotine. "Survival was your creed. I gave you an ending where even that creed is void." With a final thrust, the darkness consumed what remained. Doomsday's bones crumbled, his spines melted, his essence absorbed into the endless black. No adaptation came this time. The void had not killed him, it had erased the reason to return. Across the battlefield of shattered suns, Knull's voice carried, not in triumph, but in inevitability. The void is patient, it does not need to win quickly, it only needs you to try. And with that, the darkness reclaimed the system, leaving no trace of the beast who once defied gods. Knull had won, not merely by force, but by philosophy, because in a universe where everything adapts to survive, only the void refuses to change, and that refusal, in the end, is what remains.